Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's Technique Tuesday. Can you believe it is the 1st of February already? I certainly can't believe it at all. No matter how you are watching me this morning, whether you are watching me live via the Learning to Paint Facebook page, or if you're watching on catch up, that could be via Facebook, that could be via my blog over on the Learning to Paint website, or it could be on YouTube. No matter how you are tuning in this morning, thank you very much for doing so, and you're very welcome. Now, as always, what I like to do, those people who are watching live, I like to give them a little bit of a shout out, because it's lovely of all of you to take the time to tune in. And I know everybody's lives are getting much busier now, so I know that very few of you get the opportunity to watch it live, and a lot of you watch on catch up, but let's give you a shout out anyway, because it's nice to have you here. Our lovely Martina is first to comment today, and she's saying it's dull and blustery. It's very similar here, Martina. In fact, it has just started to chuck it down with rain as well, so that's not good, is it? Who else have we got in the room? Cheryl, good morning. Mr. Templeman, good morning. Linda, good morning. Jane, Michelle, Patricia. Now, Patricia says the sun's out in Suffolk. May it stay with you for a long time, Patricia. Pam, what's Joe saying? Joe is saying, morning. Morning, Joe. Spring is knocking at the door. Let's hope it knocks a little louder. That's what I want to hear. Maureen says, good morning. Heather, good morning. Cheryl is saying, how is everyone this chilly morning? Well, in Lincolnshire it is, yeah. I did look after the chickens this morning, and effectively I ran out, did what I have to do, and run back in again. They're not coming out either. Joe, good morning. Jeanette, Shani, who else have we got in the room? Jilly, Joy is saying it's a bit grey and cloudy in the Cotswolds. Yeah, I think we've got the same weather, Joy. Lovely Mick is in the room. He is also saying, morning one and all, have the recent winds blown your cobwebs away? And then some, Mick. Linda is saying wild and windy here this morning, hope it's better where you are. Linda, I can safely say, as I know where you are in the world, it's blowing a hoolie down here. Dee is in the room, good morning. Kathy, who else have we got? Oh, I can't see everybody. Leslie, Joe, morning. Joe is saying, I made it, yoo-hoo. I know, it does feel a bit like that on a Tuesday, doesn't it? Ruth, Jan, Rosie over in France, and Ali D is saying her husband's just gone off to golf. Lovely Tara is in the room as well. Good morning. Hilary P is there. I can't not call you Hilary P. I know that no one else knows you as that, Hilary, but I can't stop. It's like Linda D. I can't stop calling her that either. And Alice, good morning. Thank you ever so much to all of you for tuning in. It's really, really lovely to have you here. Now, it's not an overly long broadcast from me this morning because I've got to rush off, I'm very glad to say. Because I've got an Art Society demonstration to do this afternoon. Now that the restrictions are a little more lifted here in the UK, I'm back out on the road doing Art Society demonstrations, and I'm really, really grateful to those Art Societies who've kind of stuck with me where we've put things on hold. I mean, the one that I'm doing this afternoon has been a long time coming, so I'm looking forward to that immensely. So it's got to be a slightly shorter broadcast this morning. What's Trudy saying? Morning, Ali. Confused as the reminder kept saying the event was at 2 p.m. Oh, I don't know why that is, Trudy. That was probably a little slip up as far as I'm concerned. Whenever we do Technique Tuesday, it's always at 10 o'clock. If it says anything else, I've clearly got it wrong. And Ruth is saying it's not raining yet in Hampshire. May that stay that way for a long time. So should we do a little bit of a recap on what we've been doing, and I'll show you what it is that we're going to be talking about today. So here is the illustration so far, and you'll probably notice if you tuned in from last week, you will probably notice that I have inked in the remainder of it. Now, we were talking about various colours of pen last week, weren't we? And we were looking at the difference between the very pale grey, which I've got around here on the wings of my bee, and the slightly deeper grey on the leaves. And then we've got a little bit of black as well for the legs and certain parts of the bee itself. Now, as you can probably see, and I'm not sure that you can see, yeah, I think you probably can notice on my pad, when I traced it down, I didn't get it as straight as I would like it. It's not that it isn't straight, it's just not straight to the paper. And it needs a bit of a border. Or does it, is the question. I mean, I'm feeling that I'm going to put a border on it. And I thought I would show you one of the ways that, rather than trying to measure it and use a ruler to get it skew width, Is that a Dorset saying, skew whiff? But it's kind of slightly... So I would have to draw my box. I'd have to measure it so that it's in line with this banner. It's very, very OCD. I know Tara will be out there laughing at me because she and I have many conversations about my OCD tendencies when I'm doing one of these. But it's not quite square on the paper is what I'm saying. But if I draw a border around it to kind of enclose it, then that border needs to be square to this banner. Okay. I mean, I'd love to be able to tell you that I did this on purpose as part of a teaching example, but I really didn't. Good morning, Thyra. So one of the ways that you could do this, you could do it by eye and you could take the ruler and you could try to get it correct. But I've got a slightly cheaty method. No, we don't call it a cheat, do we? Stand by what you say, Ali. It's not cheating, it's a shortcut. Now, none of these rectangles actually are the right shape. But they're certainly going to give me a shortcut for lining up the corners so that I get them in kind of parallel, perpendicular to the banner. So you can already see, can you see that's kind of just ever so slightly going off at an angle. And also I quite like the rounded corners when I was trying to find my... what's this? Stencil. Oh dear. I'd love to be able to tell you that I'm stalling because I haven't had coffee yet, but I really have had my coffee this morning. So I am playing around, lining it up. I'm looking at this part up here in the top part of it. And I'm looking as to where the corner is and how I can get those things lined up. The thing is, at the end of the day, I'm doing this in pencil to start with, so I can always rub it out. And then all I've done is run my pencil around that corner so that I can take that away and see if that's better. I'm not so sure it is, but we don't particularly worry about it too much. What we'll do is we'll get the whole thing in, and then we'll see where we are with it. Let's get that part of it in, following around, line it back up again, getting that all straight. Yeah, it is off at an angle, because you can see in here, can't you, that it's wider at the bottom and narrow at the top. So I'm probably not too far out with these things. And then let's get my stencil in at the top, lining things up. I want to catch the edges of those leaves that I've put at the top. So let's get that part in, and then let's get that last little section in, lining it back up again. These kind of stencils, if you ever see them anywhere for sale or on eBay, or you know you've got friends selling craft materials off, they are really, really useful. Now, whilst I've been doing that, numerous questions have come in. Mary is saying, love your cheats. Oops, sorry, AIDS. Yes, absolutely. Joe is saying, oh my goodness, I never thought about using those stencils. Good, Joe. I'm glad that that's it. Heather is saying, won't enlarging the outer layer highlight it being slightly off? Not entirely sure what you mean there, Heather. If you can expand on that, then I'll see if I can answer that later. And Sally is saying good morning. Good morning to everybody out there. So can you see that you can really see now how squiffy it was on the piece of paper? But of course, don't forget, it's only not square to the piece of paper. Yeah. When I photograph it, if this turns into a greetings card or however it decides to manifest itself, then I will just photograph it straight. Oh, I see what Heather means. Heather is saying the outer square looks more off than your label. Yeah, I'm not. The trouble is, because it's a little bit, shall we call it hand-drawn, it is a little bit squiffy, but it would have looked worse if I had straightened this up. So what I'm going to do effectively is I'm going to leave that in pencil. I'm not going to ink that in yet. I need to have another look at that, but that doesn't stop me carrying on with the thing that I was doing earlier. Now Sally's saying you're not keeping the outside, are you? No, that's what I was saying. Yes, so Heather is saying it kind of makes more sense now that I'm photographing it. I didn't actually need to put a border on it, if I'm honest. It was literally to just kind of bring it in and encompass it. It might be that when I photograph it, I might crop that border out anyway. Who knows? Who knows what I'm going to do with it? Because like all Technique Tuesdays, we don't really know where we're going with this, do we? So that aside, I'm going to pop that over to the left-hand side of my board, and we're going to talk about colour today. Now, if you go over to the Technique Tuesday blog, you will see I've already popped some shortcuts in for you with regard to the colours. Now, I have chosen my colours this morning, and here they are here. I'll reveal what they are in just a second. But I've put on the blog the lovely shopping shortcuts, we're calling them, to where you can purchase these paints, and they give you links to pop over to the SAA website just so that you don't have to look them up. But please be aware, I am part of an affiliate scheme, and what that means is that if you purchase directly from those links, I get a little bit of a kickback which goes towards funding these broadcasts. So let me take you through why I've chosen these colours and my thought process behind it, because I hope that it's useful to you to understand how I choose the colours that I choose. All right. So we've obviously got oregano as an entity, and it's not the type of plant that I could get away with painting it a different colour. I think I need it to be oregano colour, which is anything from a really very bright, vivid green all the way through to quite a deep, rich green. Now that provides us with a bit of a problem, doesn't it? Because how are we going to sum all that up in our painting? I mean, the good news is that we really don't need anybody to try to guess what this plant is, because we've written it on the label. So it is a bit of a given that it will be read as oregano. My overriding part of choosing my colour for this was because, as we discussed in the photograph, and let's bring that photograph in for you to have a look at. You can see it's a very bright, vivid green in the photograph, but it has these little touches of brown in there. The stems are a kind of a pinky brown, and you've got these little flecks of brown in the leaves. And so that for me made the choosing of the green very easy indeed. And the one I have gone for this morning is Green Apatite Genuine. So this is a Daniel Smith colour. They're all Daniel Smith colours. There are other versions out there. If you're ever painting oregano, it doesn't mean that you have to choose this colour. This is simply the one that I've gone for, and I've explained why I have gone for it. So I'm going to squeeze just a tiny little bit out into a palette. Now, I know that some of you are out there going, well, Ali, why don't you use the box that you always use with your colours already squeezed out in it? And I'll let you in into a little secret. The reason that I can't use that this morning is because it's all packed in my car, ready to go to the art demonstration, and I've literally got to sign off from this morning's Technique Tuesday, get in my car and drive to the location, so I don't have time to pack it all up. I've got to drop it and run. I'm on a clock today. So there's a little bit of Green Apatite Genuine squeezed out. Now, one of the other things that I need to address is this slightly brighter green. Can I mix something with the Green Apatite Genuine to give it a freshness? And also, I've got a bee to consider, haven't I? I've got yellow parts of a bee to think about. So for that, I've gone for Quinacridone Gold. Now, Quinacridone Gold is available in lots of brands of watercolour, SAA, Winsor & Newton, all of those kinds. And this particular tube of Quinacridone Gold is no longer available because the pigment seam has run out. So this is a little bit precious to me, but you will find that if you go for the Daniel Smith version, then there's a Quinacridone Gold Deep, which is equally as good. So when you go to that link, if you click on it and you think to yourself, oh, Ali, you've put the wrong one up there because you've got the Quinacridone Gold Deep, that's the reason why. So let's squeeze just a tiny touch of that out. As you can see, there's not much left, and I'm going to be very sad when that goes. Maybe I will need to find a different supplier for a better Quinacridone Gold. Let's switch up the order of these. Now, this one is a bit out of left field, really. This is Rose of Ultramarine. Why have I gone for that? I have gone for that because we need to think about a colour for our banner, and we need to think about a colour for the lettering. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to do both of those things, but it's certainly a colour I'm considering for the banner. Pen is asking where the link is. So Pen, the link is on the Technique Tuesday blog over on the Learning to Paint Facebook page. There is a link in the description of this broadcast of how you can go straight to it. But if you go to learningtopaint.co.uk, let's just get that up in the camera. So over there on the right hand side, you will see the website learningtopaint.co.uk. And under free resources, drop down to Technique Tuesday and you'll be able to see the blog right there. Pen, I hope that makes sense for where you can find it. Now, why have I gone for this lovely kind of rich pinky colour for the banner? I could have gone for any colour, couldn't I? Could have gone for any colour in terms of the banner, but I employed a little bit of colour theory into this. So we're going to be having lots of green in the background, aren't we? It's going to be quite rich. If you think about it logically, it's going to be a lot of this. And so I need something to contrast with it. Now, if you've ever constructed a colour wheel, and also on the free resources on my website, you will find a link to some painting guides. So there is a link there for how you can construct your own colour wheel. So if you're not sure about colour theory, go over and give that exercise a bit of a try out too. Now, red is opposite green on our colour wheel, okay? So they are what are known as complementary pairings. What does that mean in real terms? It means that if you put a green and a red, or a bright green and a dull pink, or any combinations of those things, you're going to create what's called an optical vibration. And an optical vibration will mean that the colours set each other off. So if you've got a great expanse of green and you want something to show up in contrast to it, as we're going to have here in terms of how am I going to make that banner stand out when I've got all this green in the background, then our pinky red is going to be a good place to start, isn't it? So I've got that rose of ultramarine. Let's squeeze a little bit of that out. It's a very sticky one. It's really interesting with paints how they differ in consistency. Not all paints are the same. When you squeeze them out onto your palette, don't think that there's something wrong with one of them. If you think about it logically, different pigments are going to be different size particles. They're going to react differently with the ingredients of your tube of colour. So some are going to be much stiffer when you squeeze them out, and some are going to be much more runny, okay? So it's not a fault of the paint, it's just the consistencies that they are. And you can see there how much more liquid the quinacridone gold is in comparison to the rose of ultramarine. And then last but by no means least, we've gone for the Jane's Grey. So this is most definitely only a Daniel Smith colour. This is what's known as a convenience colour. You could mix a colour similar to this by combining other pigments. But this is a lovely combination of a blue and a brown, ready done in a tube. And it is one of my favourites to use for shadows. So let's put a little bit of the Jane's Grey out as well. Why am I doing such tiny amounts? It's because today we're only talking about what colours we're going for, and then next week we can start painting in. Now, who have I missed? Well, I've got some good mornings to say to Julie over there in Australia. Lovely to have you here, Julie. And we've got Nuala and we've got Alison. And yes, Pam, no moon glow. Who knew that would be a thing? I'm branching out. I'm trying to broaden my horizons. Now, I've got two brushes here as well that I'm going to use to test my colours out today. And again, my brushes are all packed in the car, so I delved into my spares, into my brush box to see what else I could come up with. So I've got a number 6 SAA Imitation Sable, and I've got a number 2 SAA Silver brush, a really fine one. We've got some tiny little details to fill in potentially, but we're not worried about that at the moment. All I'm going to do right now is to test these colours out down at the bottom to make absolutely sure that they are the colours I want to go for. Now, where's my bit of kitchen roll? Here we go. So I've got my pot of water just out of shot. Shall I show you the lengths that I've had to go to this morning because everything is packed in my car? Look at this. Dog food tin. because that was literally the thing I grabbed off the draining board this morning. I couldn't even bring myself to use a glass of water. It's a tin of dog food. Oh, dear me. So I'm putting my brush into the water, and then let's make a little puddle of that quinacridone gold. I'm going to use it quite thin to test my colours so that I can really see how luminous they are. No point making them very thick, otherwise I'm not going to get a true representation of that colour. And then down here, just as our little tester, let's swipe some of that colour to make sure that we're happy with it. There we go, quinacridone gold. The closest that I ever get to a bright yellow. That's working beautifully, isn't it? Very nice. Kind of fresh, isn't it? I think it's going to work well with the greens, and it's definitely going to work well in stronger versions for my bee. So I'm happy with that. Let's go for the green Apatite Genuine. Now I know how this colour works because I use it so often. So you can see it's that lovely kind of rich, it's one of the best greens that is pre-mixed in a tube that looks natural. In my opinion. I have to preface all of this with in my opinion. Other artists will tell you different. But there you go. A nice kind of, it's soft around the edges, but it still looks natural. Let's pull that colour out a little bit so that we get a better idea. How it's looking on this agave paper as well, don't forget. Looking quite nice, looking very soft, going well with the yellow. Right, let's punch it up a bit. Good morning, lovely Anita. Thank you for tuning in. Nice to have you here. Who else is here? Janet has decided that we're worth getting out of bed for this morning. Thank you very much. Lovely to have you here, Janet. Right, let's punch this up a bit and let's make a nice soft version of this rose of ultramarine. And we'll get that colour into, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? A lovely soft warm pinky tone. That's going to work really nicely, I think. So they're working together rather beautifully. And then we need our Jane's Grey because we're going to need some dark elements on our bee, but we're also going to need a shadow colour too. So let's make a pale version of that. And we'll swipe that onto our piece of paper. So we've got our little colour chart. So I'm hoping that you can see why I'm using these colours together in combination, because I think they're going to suit my composition really well. But also, if you, when you get to this point and you think to yourself, oh, I'm not so sure about those, then that's why you do this test first. You don't have to do it on your painted bits of paper. I'm doing it on the same piece of paper as my illustration so that you can see it all in the round, but use a few spares. Test them out and see what happens. Now, one of the things I want to bring your attention to in terms of the green Apatite Genuine, let's hold that up to camera. Can you see that it's splitting? The properties of the pigment are such that you've got a high sediment in there. You've got a lovely kind of brown element to that pigment, and you're getting a much fresher green sitting over the top. So if you allow it to separate in your palette, then you can actually pull some of that paler colour. So let's just take a little bit of that paler colour, the kind of brighter version of it, and you'll get a different quality again. And then there we go, there's that amazing pigment sediment, which reincorporated turns it back into brown again. So that is the reason that I use the green Apatite Genuine. But I got one more thing to test, because we said, didn't we, that we were hoping that the quinacridone gold, ooh, that's a bit too much, and the green Apatite Genuine would combine into a different kind of green for my oregano. So let's see what those look like as well. And yes, what I got is a kind of different version again. So I can use the yellow, I can use the green Apatite on its own, and I can combine the two. So that gives me a nice idea. It's also showing me how the colours dry back on this particular paper. So it gives me more of an idea of when I put the colour on, how it's going to end up. And that's just as important to understand those things, okay? And what I've got now is I've got this kind of sectioned off. The ink work is all done, and my colours are chosen, ready for me to start painting this in next week. Now, it might be that I find a little bit of time between this week and next week to do some more to this. I might drop the background in, but that's all very dependent on how much time I find myself with at the weekend, which at the moment is, I'm glad to say, looking like zero, because I'm hoping to go away with my mum, who is a regular to this broadcast this weekend. So we'll see how we get to, but I'm hoping that was useful to being able to understand. It's quite a stalling point, this, isn't it? You kind of go, right, I'm going to draw this, and I want one of these, and two of these, and five of these, and I'll put it in, and I'll put a board around it. And then you go, oh, right, what do I do now? So I'm hoping that today's broadcast has assisted you with being able to understand why I've chosen the colours that I have and the potential for what it is that they can do. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to stick with these, but it's a particularly good place to start. It might be that I add another green. It might be that the rose of ultramarine isn't strong enough. It might be that I need a different grey. Who knows? But we will work that out as we go along. So like I said, I hope that gives you a bit of an idea. I wrote in the blog that my inner monologue starts to be an outer monologue, and that's why I hope that it helps. Now, if you're working on a similar project or you want some advice, don't forget to share those things on the Facebook Learning to Paint page. And like I said, if you go back over to the website www.learningtopaint.co.uk, go to the free resources section, and in there you will find Technique Tuesday. Click on that and you will see all of the blog posts from all of the previous things that we've done since that website has launched, to hopefully inspire and encourage you to create your own projects. Lots of people having to pop off now. I have to pop off as well. I'm off to leap into my car and go and hopefully inspire some people in person, which I'm thrilled about. Thrilled to be able to be teaching people in person again. Thank you ever so much for taking the time to tune in. It's really lovely to see you. Take care, and I will see you hopefully online or in person very soon. Take care, lovely people. Bye.